Yes, the Pentagon is reportedly preparing to deploy 1,500 soldiers to Minnesota as protesters continue to cause chaos for immigration agents in the state.
Our own Matt Finn joins us live from Minneapolis with all those details. Matt, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, guys, what is up? So today I'm making another video on the ICE protests / riots in Minneapolis because I think there's some new news and I think it's pretty interesting to go over this. And I'm going to keep making videos about this because I think this is a big turning point in the United States. I mean, we saw what happened with BLM in 2020. I think we're seeing something similar here, but it's not just going to be a free-for-all for the rioters and protesters to loot and burn down cities without consequences. I think this time, the people are fed up. Now, we obviously have Trump in office, and he is more of a authoritarian figure, and people just can't run over law enforcement and ICE agents and all this nonsense. So let's hear the latest news, but this video is called Pentagon Readies 1,500 Troops as Minneapolis ICE Clashes Intensify. So let's check it out.
To you, Rachel. Well, we're entering week 3 of the unrest here in Minnesota, and the clashes between protesters and law enforcement are showing no signs of slowing down.
Shoot yourself tonight! Do it!
Another tense scene Saturday outside the federal ICE facility. Law enforcement holding the line against angry protesters who can be heard screaming, "Kill yourself," and "Un-American" to officers. The Washington Post reporting about 1,500 active duty soldiers preparing to possibly make their way here if more violence escalates. And Governor Tim Walz also mobilized the Minnesota National Guard yesterday. The Guard staged to support local law enforcement if needed and says it's ready to respond to locations across the metro area. Now, yesterday, protests continued outside the ICE detention center, and there was also a violent clash between counter-protesters at City Hall. President Trump has warned that he may use the Insurrection Act here in Minnesota, which would allow the federal government to use military troops to bring calm. Meanwhile, a statewide day of action is scheduled for this Friday. Activists are asking people not to attend work, school, or make purchases, and the St. Paul Federation of Educators is also asking people to participate in that day of action Friday. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, Matt Finn.
What does that mean exactly, day of action? People say Trump is going too far, like sending in, federal troops, and it's overreach of power, but it's like, these people are trying to destroy the cities. Like, we saw what happened with BLM. And it's not to say be a cuck to the government and to listen to whatever they say. Like, obviously, government overreach isn't good, but it's like, what do you do with this situation? Like, it's obviously not perfect that, the government would come in and kind of shut these things down. But, I mean, I see that as a better option than our cities getting burned down again and stores getting looted. I mean, I don't know. There was a few headlines that even the Minneapolis Police Department, some officers from there, are now applying for ICE. They're joining ICE instead of this because they're sick and fed up with this. They're sick of getting treated like garbage for trying to protect their countries and cities.
Force in Minneapolis, Matt, thank you. It's just continuing to ramp up and up and up. And it's important as we continue to cover this story to remember how we got here. The reckless open border policies of Joe Biden led to the criminals, the violent illegal alien criminals that ICE has gone into places like Minneapolis, a sanctuary city, to clean them up. And you had yesterday Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff, really railing on Minnesota's leaders, accusing them of aiding and abetting anti-ICE violence. Watch this.
These are acts of insurrection against the laws of the United States and against the sovereignty of the United States. Foreign illegal aliens who broke into this country, who then raped children, who committed human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, protected, shielded, sheltered, coddled, defended at every level by the leadership in Minnesota. And then when ICE goes out to make these arrests, they unleash violent mobs to attack, assault, and impede ICE officers, and they refuse to allow the city police to protect those ICE officers in the context of their duties, willfully aiding and abetting this violence.
The key word there, talking about insurrection there.
I mean, you guys just saw the video. Like, these people feel so comfortable being in front of an ICE agent and like throwing stuff at him or hitting him with a stick. Like, what is going on? And I feel bad because these people have just been completely brainwashed by the media to think this is okay. Obviously, the politicians, the governor, the mayor of these cities and states are pushing it. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Stephen
Yeah,
Miller.
I thought they were against that.
Well, and if he's talking about insurrection, maybe we're going to get the Insurrection Act.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Who knows, from
Correct.
President Trump. But I couldn't help but think, we're a day before honoring and celebrating the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. What was his message? Nonviolence, peaceful protest.
Yeah, it's Martin
Doesn't
Luther
appear like we're
King
seeing any of that in
day
Minnesota.
tomorrow.
No, not at all. It's also, there's a long history, of course, on the left of having these kind of like shock troops from, these like, activists who will create violence, create chaos, trying to destabilize the things that the administration is trying to do, things that are wildly popular. The president has a mandate. He won. The border issue, as you brought up, was front and center. Democrats recognized they were on the wrong side of it. And so now what they're saying is, we don't like the way you're doing it. And again, they find themselves on the side of, just like Kilmar Abrego, they find themselves on the side of all the people that we put up on the wall last week, showing that there were murders, rapists, as Stephen Miller said, and people who've committed terrible crimes, people that every parent would want off the streets. I think the political question here is, this is not talking about affordability from the Democrat side. Is this really what their voters want? Maybe their voters on the far left, but what about the people in the middle? And again, another thing is, Minneapolis is the home of Ilhan Omar, a deeply, deeply unpopular figure, and she has become front and center on this as well. So I think it all is not—
Throw in some fraud.
Yeah, exactly. She's suddenly like $30 million richer now, and we're uncovering all this daycare fraud. So I don't know if in the long run this is going to work. This might be their BLM.
Well, it's a great point, Rachel, because you mentioned Ilhan Omar, who is leaning hard into bringing back the abolish ICE. That has not been a winning message. And, you can dislike Stephen Miller, and you can think that his rhetoric is too harsh, but factually, he's correct. The Minneapolis is protecting these illegal criminal aliens. Now, the mayor, Jacob Frey, argues that they're not a sanctuary city. They have a separation ordinance. But at the end of the day, they do the same thing. They refuse to cooperate with ICE. The White House called him out yesterday, saying Minnesota sanctuary politicians have released nearly 470 criminal illegal aliens back into American communities since President Trump took office. ICE working every single day to remove the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens from terrorizing their state. I would just add to that, Rachel, there's also 1,360 violent illegal criminal aliens currently in custody in Minnesota jails held by authorities. And yet all ICE is saying is, just hand them peacefully to us. Don't release them to the streets. It keeps the community safer, and we don't have ICE having to make arrests at large.
We know a lot of these protesters are paid, but among these protesters are a lot of rich Edina moms pining for their 1960s protests in their university days. Those ladies are protected from a lot of this. Their kids are not getting crowded out in schools by illegal aliens because they're in private schools, and they're living in neighborhoods that are, protected or gated. So they are among the paid protesters, but I do not think that they represent the common sense people. The problem in Minnesota is common sense people are cowed into silence. They're so afraid. I mean, you saw that with the crime being committed in the daycares. Lots of good people saw the corruption, but were so afraid in that political environment in Minneapolis of being called racist for calling out the corruption.
Yeah, and we'll see as we continue to cover this whether or not the really frigid temperatures will dial things down. There's calls for more protests today and coming this week.
I'm Steve Ducey.
Yeah, I mean, that was well said by the woman in the middle there. It's like, first of all, yeah, these protesters are getting paid. Second of all, these people are so out of touch with reality because they are rich. They do have money. You see these white liberal moms out there protesting, like, let's save all these illegal aliens. But their kid doesn't have to go to school where, 90% of their class, they aren't American or they can't speak English. And like, how obviously they're just so isolated Like, again, you see the most liberal cities, the most blue states. It's like, it's Maine, it's Vermont. And then you look at the percentage of population of the white people there. It's majority white. It's the whitest states in the country. And they're the most liberal because they don't see what's going on. And again, I said this before. It's like white people's empathy is just being weaponized against them. That's all it is. Like, white people are empathetic. They want to help. And when the media kind of, you know, corrupts your brain, it makes you think things are a way that they aren't. But once you go out in the real world and you see this for yourself, or you live around it, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell. So it's an unfortunate situation. I mean, we'll see if this escalates to more and more riots, if more people get killed. I assume it will be so. Hopefully not. And hopefully, you know, President Trump will put a stop to this. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Should the government intervene more? Should they let Minneapolis be? But I'll keep covering this, maybe a little less, but as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, really helps out, and see you guys next time.